So picking up where we left off, the next step is going to involve diving into Copernicus. So we're going to search for COP network, and then you'll be able to put down this COPNet, and this is the network that we'll be able to dive inside of to do our image manipulation, as well as perform our bake. In order to pass our geometry from SOPs, which is where we currently are, into COPs, which is where we're going, I'm going to create a couple of little endpoints just to be nice and tidy. So we're going to say bake target, which is going to be the low poly. And I'll make another null called bake source, if I could spell, which is going to be coming from the high poly. Once I have these two inputs, I'll double click on the COP network once more to dive inside of it, and I'll simply type SOP import. This will allow me, if I click use external SOP, to go and find a piece of geometry, and I'm going to bring in the bake source, and then I'm also going to search for the, I'm also going to search once more for a SOP import, and we're going to bring in the bake target. So there we have it. We have our source geometry and our target geometry living inside of COPs. And this is where one of the real strengths of Houdini comes in, and especially the new Copernicus tool, which is how seamlessly we can jump between editing geometry and doing image manipulation and create really interesting workflows that take advantage of both. Now I'm going to put down a rasterize geometry node, which is going to allow me to take this geometry plane and convert it into a format that COPs will understand. But before I even do that, I'll have to put down another one called rasterize setup. And this rasterize setup is first of all going to translate this geometry from 3D space into the 2D space that COPs understands. Now we're currently only working on the bake target. Once we've moved it into this space, we can do the rasterize geometry function, and this is going to convert it to pixels. So right now it's grabbing the alpha, which doesn't exist, so say no. And what we want to grab is we want to grab the UVs. I think we want to grab the normals, and we need something else too. It might not be immediately obvious what that is, but we'll come back to it in a second. Now we're pretty much ready to do our bake. We have our bake target with UVs, we have our high poly geometry. Now in order to do the bake, we're going to go ahead and install one of the assets that's provided along with this series. So we're going to go assets, install asset library. I'm going to go and find the COP Elderwood bake and hit accept and install. Now if we right click and search bake, you're going to see that we get a little baking utility, which has a slot for UVs, normals, and geometry. So that's the UVs and the normals from the low poly, the high poly geometry. But then we also see something called ORIG-P. What's that? Well, in Houdini, P refers to the current position. And you do see that we have the option to get the position as well on the rasterized geometry, but this isn't the same as ORIG-P. So what's ORIG-P? Well, ORIG-P refers to the original position that was before we performed this rasterized setup. So if we go to the rasterized setup, we can see that it actually outputs that original P, and we will just need to rasterize that. So we can type ORIG-P. We just have to make sure that name matches exactly. So we should probably copy and paste. Now that we've done this, we can plug in the UVs, the normals, and make sure you get these the right way around, and the position, and we can plug in the high poly geometry. Now before you actually look at the output of the bake, we're going to need to select it and make sure that we select a path as well. So I'm going to go and open a file chooser, and I just so happen to know where the files are on my end, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this path, and I'm going to select this texture. But before I hit accept, just make a quick note that it's currently using $F in the name, and we actually need it to be looking for the UDIM. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is changing to UDIM so it matches the reality capture export convention, and make sure that it says UDIM up here and down here, and then hit accept. And once we've done this, we go and visualize the output of the bake. It's just going to think for a moment, and then we can see that we get our baked output. Now, if you find yourself having a hard time navigating in the Copernicus viewport, it will be because pressing F, which frames the selection which works in geometry, doesn't actually frame the selection in Copernicus. You need to press H for home, and that will frame. Okay. So not too bad. We've already managed to take our high poly object and project it into a 2D sort of rectangular texture. And the next steps we're going to go through, and we're going to look at how we can start to make this tiling. If you'd like to know more about how this bake process works, you can just right click on the bake node, click allow editing of contents, and jump inside. And you'll see that it just has a single wrangle with a few lines of code, which is responsible for sending some rays from the low poly to the high poly geometry and returning the UVs that were hit so that we can sample the texture that we've supplied. All right, in the next video, we're going to be looking at tiling.